In 3 appalling minutes today, in the small city of Dunblane in central Scotland, 16 children were murdered. A former scout leader with a grudge walked into their primary school gymnasium with 4 handguns and, without warning, opened fire.
My mum had a toy shop in the high street at the time. I was working in there that morning and she came bursting through the door and said there had been a shooting at the school, and I didn't believe her. I mean, you wouldn't. And then the phone rang in the shop and the other lady who worked in the shop answered it, and it was her daughter saying she'd heard on the radio that there had been a shooting at the primary school. And I literally grabbed my car keys, I jumped in the car.
And I remember just standing there thinking, do I go with her? Do I try? And then I thought, no, she's running too fast, I can't possibly keep up with her.
I drove towards the school, couldn't get near it because every parent in the town was doing the same thing. Ran up to the school gates. Nobody knew what was going on. Nobody was giving any information, but there were ambulances in the school grounds. We knew something serious had happened. We were relocated from the school gates into various houses and hotels and waiting for information, and probably 3 or 4 hours. And I was sharing a chair with a girl who I'd grown up with. When they announced which class had been affected, she jumped up, and it was one of her daughter's class. I remember sitting back down in the chair and not being able to move. It was that complete and utter relief that Andy and Jamie were safe. Eventually, we were allowed to collect our children from the school, and when I got my kids out, you know, and it was orchestrated well that my 2 came out together. When I got them into the car, they had no idea what had happened. You know, they had managed to keep everything calm for them.
You know, we weren't told anything until our parents came to collect us, and then they would tell us what's happened. And I mean, obviously it was a awful day.
Just try and keep everything as normal as possible. And of course, I was very upset. As you can imagine, having a toy shop, I knew an awful lot of these young 5-year-olds.
I stopped the car and I explained to them what had happened. They had both attended boys' clubs that Thomas Hamilton had run. Of course, they knew him. I'd given him lifts to the station. They were just, why would he do something like that? And of course, you have no answers. I was grateful at the time that they were too young to really understand the enormity of what had happened. It had a massive effect on all of us who lived there. You know, I could have lost my children that day.
All the time, all I could think was how lucky we were to have our grandsons safe and sound.
It really made me want to grasp life and give my kids the best opportunities that they could. You never would imagine that you would live through something like that. Never. It makes you realise how precious life is, because you never know at what point it could be taken away.
It was a strange experience to have to open when eventually the shop opened up again, and you knew that some of these lovely children weren't going to be coming back in again.
I kind of am glad in a way that when people talk about Dunblane, it's not necessarily for those events.
The success that Jamie and Andy had, the excitement and pride that brought to the town has really helped it to be, you know, something you associate with Dunblane for happy reason, rather than immediately Dunblane being the home of the tragedy.